What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are back with another Q&A. I haven't done a Q&A in quite a long time now because honestly there has not been all that much to talk about, but obviously we did just get the most recent update with the new scoreboard and stuff, and obviously there has just been a lot of discourse lately about like why is everything taking so long, why do these updates keep getting delayed, stuff like that. So weirdly enough there kind of is still a little bit to talk about, and so I thought I'd chuck in another one of these Q&As. Now before we get into it, I do have to give a big shout out to my partners at Glitch Energy. They're actually currently running a promo on the starter kits. In the starter kits you get a brand new shaker. You can either get a black one or a white one, and then with that you also get 7 different sample flavors, and all up it only cost $15, and with my code, which is code SAMMY, you can actually get that down to $11.20. And just for context, the shakers themselves, they're really good quality and they actually generally cost $10 on their own. So for essentially an extra dollar you're getting a shaker and 7 different sample flavors as well. So if that does interest you guys, be sure to head to glitchenergy.com, and like I said, if you enter code SAMMY you will get 25% off at the checkout. With that being said though, guys, let's get stuck right into the questions. So the first question that we have here is from Alice, and he says, is there a chance the development could actually be cancelled? This is something I've actually seen quite a lot in the community, and there is like a sort of simple answer to it, but there's also a little bit more to it. It is actually kind of a deeper question. So initially the sort of easy answer to say is definitely not, because they are actually legally obligated to give us 4 seasons of content, which is essentially a year of live service. And considering that actually technically hasn't started yet because season 1 isn't even here yet, pretty much from the day that season 1 starts we are essentially going to be getting at least 1 more year of live service. So they said that it's coming in summer, which is going to be somewhere in June, July or August, and like I said, pretty much from whenever that starts, if it does even get pushed back all the way to August for example, then they pretty much have to still continue to update the game until August next year, and that is a legal requirement. If not, I'm pretty sure they are open to being essentially sued because they aren't providing us with the product and the content that they essentially promised when they sold us the pre-orders. So the simple answer is no, it definitely hasn't been cancelled, but I do get what Alice is getting at here because everything is taking so much longer than it should, and it does feel like they are kind of just moving on from the game. That is the vibe that we are kind of getting at the moment, and I do think that there is actually a good chance, and I'm probably going to make a full video on this to be honest. I do think there's a good chance that they've actually kind of moved on internally to the next Battlefield game. They do still have to, you know, provide updates for this game obviously. So as I said, we will definitely get at least a year more of content, but with how slow everything's going, and it seems like, you know, just the scoreboard even, it took them so long and it's still not finished. Like, it does feel like things are taking way longer than they should, and that makes it feel like they've kind of just moved on to the next game, and you know, maybe they've left a small crew behind to work on this game while, you know, the majority of the developers are actually sort of moving on to the next Battlefield, Battlefield 6 or whatever you want to call it. And so yeah, it's definitely a kind of hard question to answer because the easy simple answer is just no, it hasn't been cancelled, but then I kind of get what Alice is getting at here, that it just really does feel like it has been cancelled, to be honest. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it goes. The other side of that is maybe they're just holding off a bit of content for, you know, season 1, and there's a lot of rumors that they may potentially like relaunch the game essentially, so maybe that's why it's so slow. It's hard to say, but yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting year or so for the Battlefield franchise. Now moving on, we have a question from my man Vic, and he says, what do you reckon the point of this was, with a picture of this guy's face? And for a bit of context for you guys who don't know what Vic's talking about, a while back, I think it was in 2021, but it might have actually been 2020, EA and DICE essentially showed this like tiny little snippet of kind of like a little showcase of the Frostbite engine. It showed the picture that you guys can see on screen with the guy's face, and obviously it looked much higher quality than that. It then showed a bunch of like AI soldiers running across a battlefield, and then it also showed the building that has been displayed everywhere because obviously this game doesn't have as much destruction as we all probably thought it would. And yeah, it showed the sort of like the building crumbling. It had been hit by an explosion or something. And so that's just a bit of context if you don't know what this picture's from. Now the answer to, yeah, what do I reckon the point of it was, it wasn't really to display that for Battlefield 2042. I've heard a lot of people saying like, oh, they promised us the destruction in that little clip. They really didn't do anything. It wasn't to do with Battlefield necessarily. It was mostly just to do with Frostbite 5, which is the new version of the engine, and they were just essentially showing off like what is actually possible with the new engine. Obviously everything they showed in that, it looked really, really good. That picture that was a part of this question, in the showcase, it looked like the highest quality image that I'd ever seen in a video game, to be honest. The guy borderline looked real. So I think the whole point of them showing that was not necessarily for Battlefield 2042. A lot of people sort of took that as, oh, this is going to be in the next game, but a lot of the time companies will kind of work on these little, it's almost like a little portfolio kind of thing where they'll show a bunch of stuff that they're like capable of doing, whether that's for investors or I'm not really sure why they do that. But yeah, I think the whole point of that was to essentially just show off like how powerful the new engine is and what they are potentially able to do with it. Obviously the bots did show up in 2042, but the destruction and the guy's face, like the characters in this game do not look anything near as good as the guy in that image, so a lot of it hasn't showed up in this game, but obviously in the next game the destruction could be like that. So I think the whole point of that was essentially just to pretty much show off what he's actually capable, and that doesn't even necessarily mean like straight away, that's just more stuff that can be done in this engine. Next up we have a question from my man Doug, and he says, now that bitches have their scoreboard, what is the first real issue you would like to see resolved? Now I know Doug has a very similar sort of viewpoint as I do on the scoreboard. I'm glad they added the scoreboard. It was a necessary fix and it is a lot better now, and yeah, I'm glad that they did that, but it is just such a tiny little thing, and I do understand why the community was talking about it so much, because it was one of the most simple things. Like, how did they possibly mess up a scoreboard? But in my opinion, it did get taken a bit too far. Like, people were acting like it was going to fix the game or something. So it's in the game now. I personally don't think it makes the game all that much better, but in terms of the first like real issue that I think actually improves the game, I think a server browser is still absolutely necessary, especially like in places like Australia, and I know Doug knows in New Zealand we're on the same servers. It is borderline impossible to find games at times, and with a server browser that becomes essentially fixed straight away. If you just go in the server browser, you can see where everyone is, and you can just join that server, and you can even queue up if it is a full server and it's the only one that's there. You can still queue on that server, so you know, oh, I'll just wait 5 minutes and then it will be, you know, free to join. So I think for me right now, that is the immediate thing that needs fixing, because like I'm still playing the game. I'm still actually, weirdly enough, enjoying this game, and it is actually impossible sometimes to find lobbies. And for those of us who are still sticking around and playing, I think they do need to sort of help us out, because we are the ones who are still, you know, kicking around and playing the game. And so they can work on future content and stuff as much as they want, but if no one can find a lobby, that content doesn't mean anything, you know what I mean? So for me, the first proper issue is definitely to do with the server browser. They have mentioned it, but yeah, that was like in December and they haven't really said anything since. Surely it can't be that hard. It's literally in the game already in Portal, so surely that can just be like ported over to All Out Warfare. But again, everything seems to be taking so much longer in this game than it really should be, so whether it even eventually comes, I'm not really sure, but that is definitely the number one thing for me that I think really needs to be fixed. Now the next question comes from my boy Mark, and he says, what's 3 pieces of advice you'd give DICE to restore the game to what it could or should be? This is a very good question. And there's probably about 100 pieces of advice. Obviously, I'm not a game designer, so I have no idea at the end of the day, but there's a lot of stuff that I could definitely try and give them advice on. To pick 3 of them, I think number 1, just communicate more. They've sort of talked about improving their communication already, and they have, you know, just at the start of this month they did the whole thing with the maps. They're showing off what they're going to do with the maps and stuff like that, and that's really good. That's the type of stuff we need to see. We've then got the patch notes, and then they've said later this month, which might even be around the time this video goes up actually, that they're going to sort of come back with the feedback that we gave them on the maps, and then do essentially like a second round of showing off their ideas on the map. So they're definitely doing better, or at least they're set up to do better than they were, because for a long time there was really nothing being said. But I do still think the communication could be so much better. It's just been so quiet, and like there's nothing worse than being left in the dark. That is a surefire way to absolutely kill any remnants of a community that you have if you're just not communicating. So that's my number 1 piece of advice. They need to be communicating like weekly with us. I know there's probably not much they can really share with us, but just do anything. Do a survey on what's the type of stuff we want to see, or, you know, just literally do anything, because silence is the absolute killer when it comes to gaming communities, especially when it is, you know, the game's in a state like this. Piece of advice number 2, the way the things are going, hire more people. I don't know why things are taking so long. There's apparently 700 developers at DICE, and obviously there's more company. There's like Ripple Effect is working on this game as well. Like, there's so many other developers that they have on this game, and it's still taking so long. So honestly, just like hire more people, mate. I don't know how this is all taking so long. And I do get that COVID's still, you know, running rampant in a lot of places, and this is also the biggest game they've ever made. It's got the biggest player count. It's on so many different platforms. It's like PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, PC. There's so many places they have to like optimize it for. So I get that it's probably the biggest project they've ever taken on. But if that's the case, man, just like hire more people. There's plenty of people that would love to work in game design. There's so many talented people out there. So yeah, if it's going to take this long, man, just they need to hire more people, honestly. As for the third piece of advice, if this is a hypothetical, but if, like I was saying earlier, they have decided to essentially move on to the next one, and they're going to just do the bare minimum with this and then try and, you know, do better with the next game. That is not the way to go about it. They need to put all their eggs in this basket. They need to fix this game, and they need to support it for 2, 3, 4 years to get like a genuinely really, really good Battlefield game out there. Even if it takes that long, no one wants that. Everyone wants it to be good right now, but even if it takes another 2 years for it to be in decent state, they have to fix this game, and they have to get this game to a state where at the end of it, we're all going, oh damn, that was actually a really good game. It had a rough old launch, but man, it ended up strong. So if that is, you know, the case where it does feel like they're kind of moving on to the next one, that is definitely not the way to go about this, because they're just going to do the same thing. They're going to rush that game out to try and make up for this one. It's going to launch shit, and we're just going to go through the same cycle again. And it's just going to be a never-ending cycle. So they, at some point, they need to sort of dig in, deal with a loss of profit for a while. Like, this game surely can't be making that much money. They're just going to have to deal with that. EA is a big enough company, I'm pretty sure they can handle that. Like, they're not going to go bankrupt over one game. They even said themselves it's 10% of their income. So take the L, work on this game, fix it, and if you earn people's trust back, and you know, by the end of this game, people are like, damn, that's a really good game. Look at Battlefront 2. No one thought that would survive, and now it's probably one of the most loved Star Wars games ever. And now people are absolutely screaming for Battlefront 3, so obviously they have earned our trust back with that game, and people literally want to splash money on Battlefront 3. So if they just do the exact same thing, it's literally the same company. I don't know how they don't see that. If they do that exact same thing, again, it might take 2 to 3 years to do that, but if they do that, then when it's in a good state and they announce the next Battlefield, people will be really, really keen to buy that game. But yeah, in its current state, I personally just don't think the next Battlefield will sell all that well if they don't earn our trust back on this one. So those are the 3 bits of advice I would give. There's plenty more that I could try and give. Obviously, like I said, I'm not a game designer, but I think some of the stuff that I said was like pretty obvious stuff. I don't think I'm talking rocket science here, so hopefully someone at DICE is listening, and hopefully they actually put it into action. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this Q&A. I'm probably going to slow down with the Q&As. I was doing them every month, and now I'll probably do them every 2 to 3 months, just when there's actually like an opportunity for it. So let me know if it is the type of thing you guys like to see. If you guys want more, then I'm definitely happy to do more, but if not, then I'll probably just slow them down a little bit. If you did enjoy the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you are new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications, as there's going to be plenty more Battlefield 2042 content on the way in 2022. If you want to support the content that I make here on YouTube, then consider becoming a channel member. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.